You're still watching TVC Breakfast. We now take you to this very important conversation. Now, a deeply empowered tussle has emerged in Oyo as the Alaafin weighs litigation over leadership of the Oyo Council. Now, the dispute rooted in question of authority, tradition and governance has sparked tensions within the Asian kingdom as legal options are considered. The development threatens to test the balance between customary institutions and modern legal process with potential implications for unity and administration in Oyo. Joining us for this conversation is communications consultant, indigenous knowledge and culture advocate, Kenny Adenugba. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. Carol. It's always good. It's only a Carol I know in Yoruba, but yeah, it's always good to have you, on the show. Your insights are totally amazing. So thank you for joining us for this very important conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I just want to start with this because this has been very controversial on social media. We're talking about the Olubadan and then the Alaafin. We're talking about that particular handshake where a lot of people said who was right, who was wrong. Was he supposed to stretch his hand? Was he supposed to wave? What did they call it? Is it the shekere or what he was supposed to wave? The irukere. What was supposed to have happened at that time? That's my first question. And then the second one is, it's so sad that we're getting to see this happen, in the royal, family. This family is supposed to, bring about peace and tranquility. People are supposed to learn, and rather we're seeing a royal rumble. But I want us to start first with that handshake. Clarify for us what should have happened on that day.
Well, let's get it right. In the first instance, shaking, handshake, is not originally in our culture. It wasn't originally in our culture. It was a foreign importation into our culture. But culture is dynamic, and culture culture takes in other people's nuances and ways of life. So we've accepted it's fine. However, there are rules, even where it came from, that you do not sit down to shake. That's one. Now, we're talking of where it came from itself.
Yeah.
You don't sit down to shake someone. You rise to shake. That's first thing. Secondly, a younger person never extends the hands first in shaking for a handshake. If the elderly person wants to shake you, he will stretch his hand. And then you will respectfully take that hand as a sign of acceptance of the leaders or the elderly person's magnanimity, so to say. So in a way, that said, whether there are undercurrents or not is a different ballgame. I think we must put things in perspective properly. It is naturally disrespectful for anyone to sit down and stretch a hand to shake another. Now that is the first one. The second premise of it is somebody who is much older, regardless of what the throne is. Because let's look at it. The Olubadan, as it were, he's not just a mere king. In Yoruba, they will call people like him Borokini, even before he became an Oba. A former senator, a former governor, who is also a successful businessman. A billionaire by whatever standard, it's okay. But the reality is, he's also an older person, somebody who is in his 80s. Even a 60-year-old man would defer to him, or a 70-year-old man would defer to him. I've been in places and I've seen cases where billionaires who are in their 80s, 70s, 80s, will even courtesy and respect people who are maybe like 5, 6 years older. I've seen that, pardon me if I have to mention, I've seen that done by Baba Alhaji Razak Okoya to someone like Emeka Yaku. It's respect, and respect begets respect. It's reciprocal. You cannot sit down and stretch your hand to another traditional ruler. Except maybe you are mates and then there's a way you've always been used to greeting yourself. It's a different ballgame. Even at that, what is the essence of the rukere? The horsewhip is there for you to actually, and there are ways to even greet when it comes to using that. Some you would raise it up to greet yourself, some you will be, depending on who you are to one another. But in every sense, no matter how anybody wants to actually look at this. What is bad is bad. What is not good is not good. We can't turn it around. Where I come from, they say, yeah. It's not good, it's not good. That was totally uncalled for, unnecessary.
Right.
And for Olubadan,
But do you think it was intentional?
the greeting?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe not. It probably was a case of the Alaafin didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
However, for an elderly person, well, good enough, Olubadan had come out to say that
He didn't see it.
he didn't see it because he was bothered with coming late and not distorting the whatever. And the reality is, for whatever it is worth, we will take it as that. So regardless of what bloggers will make of it and whatever, you don't forget, I keep saying one thing. Bloggers want the clickbait.
They want the clickbait, yeah.
And they want to make money from, traffic. Yeah. So it's okay. But the moment KBAC had come out to say it wasn't so, for me, regardless of what the optics may be, I will take KBAC's word that it wasn't so. So I'll let that go. Because to begin to, light fire and be looking for things under the bushel will become another story entirely.
Yeah. I broadly agree with you to some extent. To some extent. But I would challenge, the issue of the fact that we do not shake in our culture. That is not correct. If you go deeper into culture, you'll understand what I'm talking about. There are ways, there are things, or teachings of behavior which are illustrated through symbols and allegory. And then there are ways they greet each other, even in traditional parlance. So you begin to understand that it's part of our culture at a certain level, but not the general handshakes within day-to-day between people. And people have seen it outside anyway, ways of people identifying each other through handshakes, and that happens. And in any case, when it comes to greetings, there are other ways in which people greet each other in Yoruba land, and that is what we should not forget. It's not necessarily by physical contact. People can greet each other from afar off, saying, "How is your wife, your mother," and all that, without saying a single word to each other. Yeah. So those who are raising this issue,
is that esoteric meta communication, or what kind of communication?
No.
If you're a bit deep into esoteric knowledge, you'll understand these issues. Now, what you see is that
I think you're taking myself and Ria to another pedestal.
What you see is that people, exchange greetings without you knowing. And we've always been having this in the past. But what you see currently going on, like I guess correctly said, is the impact of social media. Now everything is captured in social media. Some people somewhere is sitting somewhere saying, "How can I title this so that people can view? I can make money through, this." We've always been having issues, just like the Alaafin and Oni issue. They've always been there. It's about one is about spiritual, how would I call it? One is about imperial legacy, and the other is about spiritual primacy. These are issues, and they've always been there in history, and we've been interfacing and dealing with this issue. But the impact of new technology on our traditional institution is what is coming into focus now, and I'm glad you're touching on it.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. Which is good. I like where the dimension you went into. Like I said, you've said something that along the line, greetings became, but originally, deeply, it really wasn't, because there were other ways of greeting, even with, or communication, so to say. Where I come from, they will say, "Shomoju," which means that,
can you read the signs?
Can you read the signs? You don't need to talk. You don't need to talk. You just want to, a little wink or a little visual expressions are there. Sometimes body language, which are more important to us than speaking or doing any physical thing, which is what he's talking about, the fact that sometimes you almost go telepathic. Sometimes, when it gets to the esoteric level, you almost go telepathic, where people don't know you're communicating. You're looking at each other from afar, and you've said a whole lot. And sometimes you then use codes, even if you have to speak. Which is what sometimes you call aroko or eno or whatever it may be. So there are different ways to communicate, to greet, to pass on messages without necessarily speaking or even doing any physical contact. So in a way, there are also ways that, which is why even our traditional rulers and leaders must also learn the culture in-depthly. And that's part of the reason why the PB is very important. And sometimes I ask questions as well. Who are those who then also take them through knowledge? within the Ikpebi. And what do they tell them? What kind of history are they?
By Ikpebi, do you mean the seclusion?
The seclusion. Okay. Because in the seclusion, you learn a lot. You learn the spiritual, you learn the physical, you learn historical things and what have you. But like I always say, even when a child is born, where I come from, they say you must give yourself a rebirth. That's the truth. Yeah. So if people have taught you things and what have you, you must also retrain and teach yourself new things, learn new things, learn how things are done properly. Go in depth more sometimes.
Right. Okay, I think before I ask, I think we're supposed to go.
Okay, all right. No, I think you can go ahead.
Okay.
So that's on the Olubadan matter anyway.
Okay. All right, so we'll go on a quick break. We'll hold Ibrahim, hold that question because I know it's a handful. So we'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're still speaking about the Royal Rumble. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. You're still watching TVC Breakfast, and we've been speaking about the Royal Rumble. Quite a very important conversation. Just before we went on the break, Ibrahim was ready and packed with a very packed question. Ibrahim, over to you.
So I'm actually, concerned about those who are involved in historical revisionism. Those who try to probably change the history the way it is, just in favor of one or the other. Based on my understanding, I understand that the Alaafin of Oyo, talk about the empire at the time between the 16th to 18th century. Yeah. And then Ibadan actually rose, to, prominence in the 19th century after the collapse of the Oyo Empire at the time, having the military, might and controlling the largest, area when it comes to the current, situation. The Oni of Ife, the Ile-Ife, that's our origin as a Yoruba person, the spiritual, significance and all of that. But looking at the current situation of the Oyo Assembly, recently amending the law to introduce a rotational chairmanship of the Oyo Council of Obas. Yeah. And the Alaafin wasn't there. The Oyo State government saying that he only wants to make sure that it is representative and in congruent with current reality, current dispensation, especially when there is nothing of such as empire as we used to have. So there is no longer emperor or the place that you control. Yeah. How do you, position this, because the Alaafin said they didn't consult him, and the forth and back regarding the position of the government on the rotational Obaship Council, you see, the chairmanship of the Obas.
The reality here is, this is not new. Let us say it for what it is. And whatever happens today already had historical trajectory where it's coming from. Don't forget one thing. In 1937 and what have you, the meetings between the Yoruba, within the leading Yoruba Obas, the first one was done in Oyo, and then after that, Abeokuta, then you went to, then they went to Ijebu-Ode, went to Benin and what have you. There were 5 of them. Oni, that was Oba Adesoji Areremi, Alake, that's Oba Ladakwa Ademola, Oba, the Awujale of Ijebu land, Oba Daniel Adesanya also, and you had Alaafin Ladigbolu and the Oba of Benin. Even at that time, they all agreed that the Oni would lead them.
Spiritually? Or politically?
For the meeting.
Okay.
In all their meetings. And all the places they went to have those meetings, the Oni was the chairman. That's one. And if anybody started talking about Awolowo did this, Awolowo was still young then, and it was not even within the political setting, not holding any major thing. Anyway, he was still able to do that kind of thing. So, in a way, that had been there. So how come Alaafin Ladigbolu did not make an issue then? But I digress. Now, when it comes to the issue of Oyo State Council of Obas, like I said, when Oba Kwande Shijuade came to the throne after the exit of Kabiyesi,
Oba Adesoji
Aderemi, Tadeni Baba, then some things started coming up. And where the Alaafin then asked some others that they should support him, that the rotational chairmanship must take place. Before then, there was no rotation. Oni was the chairman for the old Oyo State. But Alaafin then gathered a few others and said, we must push for rotation. And by history, we all also realized that at a particular meeting that they were to have in the House of Chiefs, The Olubadan then, the then Olubadan, Olode Ashanke, I remember him very well, sat on the chairman's seat. Possibly by instigation, whatever it may be. And Oni came in, saw what was going on, and he turned back. And he never attended any other meeting of the whatever at that point. But they were asking for rotation. Because at that point, Seun Ogbomosho, Olubadan, if I remember very well, you also had the Owabokun of Ijesha land, Oba Adekunle Aromolaran then, and the Orogun of Ila, of Ila. They were all there as part of that. There must be, rotation and what have you. So, in a way, that happened until the whole Oyo State was now separated into Oyo and Osun. And of course, in Osun, both Owa and Orogun of Ila could not really look at Odi and say, Baba, we want to share this with you. But in Oyo State, the others who were supporting the Alaafin, they now came up and said, since we were already talking about rotation must take place. You see where that problem came from. And so in a way, it became a major problem. And for years after that, there was a kind of interregnum where there was not even a meeting until it's now being reconstituted. And then don't forget at the same time that the Oyo State House of Assembly has already legislated rotation. This is you see, when it comes to the issue of empire or no empire, we must realize that the dynamics of the modern environment has changed a lot of things. Even Britain will not come out and say, I used to be the hegemonic empire. And so America, shut up, come to me. I used to be your colonial master. It's not going to
even with the current trust that they have.
It's not going to be possible. So everybody plays smart around around certain things. So sometimes even you used to be the power. But where I come from, they say one thing. Nobody moves away from the road for somebody who had a horse yesterday. If I'm permitted to say Yoruba, which means that you used to be great yesterday. Yes, that's good. But today, things are different. So let's not live in that past glory of I used to be this. Because the reality is, if we want to start talking about that, and we now want to look at that incident of those issues of those years, in today's terms, then some people will not like what's going to come out of it. Because reality is this. The old Oyo Empire itself, actually, if we look at it really, really, in today's terminologies, went into terrorism and banditry against their own people, their brothers and what have you. Let us say it for what it is. Because that is what empires will do. Force of power. Force people to come and to pay obeisance to you, to give you this. So, in a way, the days of empires are gone. We must understand that. And legislation is here now. Government is saying this and that. And now if the governor said, I had consulted, even if you did not consult fully, you must understand the language of diplomacy and leadership. So if he has said that, he has only probably could have said that to also honor even Alaafin himself as Kabiyesi. But in the first instance, how come Kabiyesi was not in that? Because that meeting, that council inauguration was not representative. Almost all the Obas were there, because I saw Olugma, I saw a whole lot of others there. So if one of the three, the triumvirate, was unavoidably absent, there must be a reason. And that reason must be stated to the state government. So for whatever it is, we must play, Oyo needs to be careful to play things right. Because the reality is, like I said in a particular space, I said, Oloyo, that's Alaafin, must understand. Because I use that Oloyo because of the use of Yoruba, whatever. Oloyo must understand that Ileyo. The ground is slippery. So we must play things right. Something happened before. Alaafin, Adeyemi II, had an issue that led to an exit. So we must be careful, because we're in the days of political leadership.
I'm conscious of the time.
Not monarchical leadership today. So monarchy works with us. We try to work with monarchy the same way the British work with the British monarchy today.
Yeah,
give them roles.
I think I need to, I'm conscious of the time, to follow your logic.
Yeah.
Just following your logic, flowing from 1937. I'm sure you're aware that between 1956 and 1956 to 1957, there was a series of declarations made, under the colonial rule before our independence. Yeah. And then the hierarchy in which they were all arranged in each area. And that was what was taken and adopted by the Western region. When we had the Western region Chiefs Law.
House of Chiefs, yeah.
House of Chiefs. And then they have the Chiefs Law.
Yeah.
And then again, the seats in hierarchy. That what then eventually turned out is that there were problems in different states. And then you now have the state government looking for solutions and said, okay, what do we do? Let us follow the provinces. If you look at, for instance, in Ogun State, what you have is you have the Akarigbo of Remo, Akarigbo of Remo, you have the Awujale of Ijebuland, the 4 provinces, the Egbado and the Egbas, the Alaki of Egbaland, Edin. So they had that they structured it along that 4 lines. The same thing is happening in other places. But in the case of Oyo and Osun, they've actually been split into 2. Now, my question is this. Using your logic, now that the state government said, okay, this Ibadan province, Oyo province, now we used to have Oyo province. If you now want to rotate in that way, what would then happen if tomorrow or years later, a government or a new governor in Osun State says, look, hang on a minute, we have the Itimi of Ede there, we have Oluwo of Iwo there, we have Orogun of Ila there, we have Owa Oboko of Ijeshala. We also want to do the same thing with the post of Oni. Bearing in mind the fact that Oni is, Ife is the spiritual home of the Yorubas.
Now, I see your logic there. The logic is right. It's not impossible. And like we say, people must understand. But what I know is this. For certain reasons of sentiment and primordial sentiments and possibly cultural intelligence, I'm almost certain that even the Obas in Osun will call the political leadership and says, you know what, this is our ancestral home. We will not drag leadership with the ancestral home. It's different from what you have in Oyo State. You must understand that.
There are issues between Oluwa and Oni.
Yeah, the issue between Oluwa and Oni, I understand that. And the issue here is this. You see, all those ones are skirmishes that really shouldn't be bothered with, because it's like when you have Momolile or among your children and who now decides to misbehave. But outside of that, you have an Owa who will not look at Oni anyhow. You have an Orogun who understands culture and that this is a homestead. That's right. So in light of that, compared to Oyo in this matter, because don't forget that as at the time Oyo was coming into Agodo Oyo, the old Oyo had scattered and they came to Agoja. Ibadan was already there.
That's right.
Yeah. So we need to look at all of that. So by that time, at the end of the day, Ibadan was already there. Ibadan became an empire after the total fall of Oyo. Yeah. And it was Ibadan's need to expand into the other areas that led to the Kiriji War of the 16 years. So in a way, they're 2 different things. Others can look at Oyo and say, you know what, we knew where you're coming from. The hegemony is gone. Which is why I keep saying one thing. Imperialism cannot be compared to cultural authority. They're 2 different things. One comes by force. The other comes from the people.
We can't reduce a century conversation into
exactly, I know, right? But quite a very, very robust and interesting conversation. Thank you so much. It's always amazing to have. He's actually a delight because
Absolutely.
he's very vast when we talk about things like this. Thank you so much. I'm sure you will join us again for us to have a more robust conversation when we have more time.
Make it 2 hours.
Thank you. 2 hours. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Kenny. Thank you for joining us. Anyway, you're still watching TVC Breakfast. Now, Nigeria's tech ecosystem is rewriting the nation's innovation story, from bold startups to thriving incubators. Join us after the break as we discuss how tech is shaping jobs, investment, and global relevance. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.